Deleted and missing: White House call logs, Secret Service texts, DHS texts, rampant use in White House and other agencies of apps like Signal that are impermissible for feds to use for business. Confident January 6th committee will find more. It's where we start the hour. Joining us, Neil Katyal, former acting U.S. Solicitor General, now a Georgetown University law professor, and former RNC chairman Michael Steele. Both are MSNBC contributors. So Michael Steele, my son already makes fun of me, and he's only 10, for saying when I was young, but I'm going to do it just this once. When I worked in the White House, we had a computer that the RNC, I think that would be you, paid for.
Wow.
And if we ever turned and wrote a single message that was political in nature, or could be, we typed it from that computer. But that, too, was considered a White House record. And I wonder, how have we devolved to such a degree that acting secretaries, Secret Service agents, people with national security jobs, people whose jobs and communications had national security implications, have just incinerated their records? There are these flashpoints where you see how far things moved when Trump became president from the people around him taking their cues from him. He shoved things in toilets. He shredded things. Meadows burned things. It seems that conduct was contagious.
Not only was it contagious, Nicole, it was probably required. Because this rot starts in one place and one place only. We cannot get confused or mix up what we're talking about here. This flows from the president. If the president has an attitude about such things that is cavalier, a disregard for protocol procedures, a disregard for maintaining the records that recount to the public at a certain place in time what this White House was saying, communicating, and doing, if there's disregard for that, then guess what? That's going to bleed down. And when you bring in someone from the Secret Service and make them your deputy chief of staff, that speaks to that corrupt sense and purpose. So it's not surprising that these records are missing. It's not surprising that there is this general attitude. And I think Andrew's right about what the January 6th committee not only has found, but now will find more of. It is interesting to me that suddenly now we're seeing that it wasn't just Secret Service. It's this agency over here, it's that department over there. And I think you're going to find more of that rot because the word had gone out that certain behaviors and certain things that they were being asked to do, there should be no conversation or record of. And that's what we're going to see more of, I think.
Neil, is rot the right word, or could we start asking about a cover-up?
Definitely start asking about a cover-up. I mean, my question, Nicole, is, did these Trump White House folks keep anything at all? I mean, it's kind of like the Arcade Fire song, burn it all down. I mean, and all of this destruction, to me, has to be deliberate. I mean, even the Trump administration can't be this incompetent, because remember that these new texts that we're learning about from the Department of Homeland Security today, this isn't like the first rodeo where stuff has gone missing. I mean, the Secret Service texts we learned about last week, those are all gone. We learned that Mark Meadows literally burned documents in the White House fireplace about his meeting with Representative Perry. We also learned that he was using Signal, an encrypted app, to communicate with Representative Perry about the coup and stuff like that. We learned that the photographer on January 6th was banned from the Oval Office, even though the photographer protested, saying, look, this is important, Mr. President, for history and our archives. And to say nothing of the White House call record, which on January 6th shows no calls made for 7 hours. And we also learned, I can't even keep track of all this, but we also learned highly classified documents left the White House and just all of a sudden showed up at Mar-a-Lago after inauguration. So something has gone seriously wrong when it's harder to keep track of the evidence that we don't have than the evidence that we actually do have. I mean, it's truly bonfire of the vanities at this point.
Yeah, and the part of it that I don't understand, Michael Steele, is why we don't start at, it looks like a cover-up prove that it wasn't. Why don't we place these agencies in such a high, I mean, these are not nothing agencies. They're really important. That the Secret Service is operating on the up and up today is a national security question. Why don't we demand accountability and that everything stops until we can prove that this is not something nefarious?
You asked the perfect question, and I'm going to try to give you as close as I can to the perfect answer. And that is because everyone in this town, Nicole, is so afraid of what will happen if we bust this thing wide open. If we expose, I'll use the term rot. I like cover up, but the reality of it is if we expose it, in other words, damn it, something happened here. Something illegal, corrupting happened here. And why these folks, whether it's the Biden administration, prior, administration officials, members on Capitol Hill, don't take seriously the responsibility they have to the American people to expose the corruption and expose what led to January 6th. Everyone is walking around pins and needles. Oh, what does this mean? We've never gone after a president. We've never done this before. Because we've never had a president do what Donald Trump has done. We've never had administration officials actually, as we've just pointed out, use Signal to communicate when they know it's a violation of law. So if people stop pussyfooting around and stop acting like children, scared of their own shadows and what this may mean for the future of democracy. Well, let me tell you what the future of democracy looks like if you don't do something, if you don't investigate, if you don't expose, and if you don't bring to account the Josh Hawleys on the Hill and the chiefs of staff in the administration and the president himself, if you've got the evidence that shows that they did something illegal, damn it, prove it. And the only way you can prove it is to investigate it.
Yeah, I mean, Neil, right now, I don't have any innate sense that everything was corrupted, but I must be shown the evidence that it was not, because Trump tried to. And you go back to, there's such a body of evidence of him sitting with, you name the agency. Actually, I think it was DHS. I'll pardon you. Just do it. Wanting, people trying to come to this country shot. Oh, I'll pardon you. Wanting, he sought to corrupt everything. So why don't we turn everything upside down, shake everything out and say, that one's okay. Yeah, these really were an incompetent reason that these were, because if you investigate it and you come out and you can prove that it was incompetence, fine, then we can move on. But until we know it was incompetence and not corruption and criminality, how do we function with these glaring questions about the United States Secret Service in charge today with keeping Kamala Harris and Joe Biden alive?
100%, Nicole, and we refer to that in the law as a negative inference. The idea that, that we infer something bad happened unless you can prove otherwise. And that's always a rare thing to do, but it makes sense here when viewed against the tapestry of all of the things that we know that Trump did, things that you've mentioned, like corrupting the pardon process, dangling pardons out, also trying to staff, even at the last month of the administration, trying to jam people in December of 2020 and January of 21 into the DOD and other places, all those personnel changes, that's like never done from one administration to the next. You leave that open, but there must have been a reason, and I suspect it's nefarious. And then when it comes to the destruction of all of these different documents, having no call records and the like, I think a negative inference is appropriate, not just because of Trump and what we know he did otherwise, but also, Nicole, something you said at the beginning, which is this is not the way the White House operates. It's not the way the government operates normally. Like when I was at the Justice Department, we'd go in on the weekends and print out our emails just to make sure there was a paper record and not just an electronic record of everything that we sent and did. These people, if they printed it out, it was only to burn it and then to hit delete, over and over again. And, I understand the government sometimes makes, you're not always competent and, particularly in technology, but this over and over and over and over again. And from the top, as Michael says, it's the White House chief of staff using Signal. That's a negative inference to me. That is absolutely appropriate and for investigators. And so if he can't prove otherwise, that he was innocent, that these communications were innocent, I think we should assume that they were nefarious.
I also want to come back, just at the risk of sounding glib myself, to how deadly serious this was. If this was the Super Bowl and this was the radio traffic about the threats, there would have been congressional hearings immediately, bipartisan ones, I believe.